Good evening. I'm Diane Morton, and we have Women of Acadiana. And tonight I have RoseChassion with a local real estate company, and it's good to have you, Rose. We've been friends so many years that it's a delight to have you on the series. And tell me, please, what prompted you or gave you the push to go into real estate?
It's good to be here, Diane. About 21 years ago, I inherited some property from my mother, and we listed the property for sale with a local realtor, and the agent worked part-time, and there were some judgments that needed to be cleared on the property, and I went in and did some of the work, and I enjoyed doing that. And I thought, I think I'd like to do that kind of work. So I decided to look into real estate.
And how much you told me of enjoying it so much. Even though your children are grown now, would you tell some of the advantages that you felt that you had in the profession of real estate when your children were younger and in like grammar school or junior high?
Yes. When I started in real estate, my children were, my daughter was going into high school and my son was in elementary school. And it was perfect for me because I could take them to school and go on to the office about 9 o'clock until about 1:30 in the afternoon, and I'd pick them up, come home, prepare dinner, and pick the children up at school. And if I had to make appointments, then I would make them in the afternoon after the kids were home.
And how beautifully that worked out.
It worked out perfectly. I was able to participate in their school activities, still be there for them, and start my career at the same time.
That sounds fabulous. When you look back, with the years, what training or what courses in school do you feel like really prepared you best for the real estate profession?
I would say math. Math helped me a lot in school. And of course, experiences in sales that I had after school, in indirect sales.
What would you recommend to young people, either that are perhaps in high school that have an idea of going into real estate, or young people that are going into college? Do you have certain courses that you advise that might be best to prepare them? And you mentioned sales. Perhaps are there training schools or seminars that you feel would be good?
I think there are courses that are offered locally, and then of course after you're licensed, the Board of Realtors offers courses in continuing education. I think reading positive thinking books helps a lot. And I think the main thing is to get your education, as much education as possible. And I think that would be a great help. And of course, you have to love people and have patience.
I was going to ask you if there are certain personalities that you think are so good in real estate, and I hate to be negative, but are there certain personalities perhaps that you would say, no, I would advise you with the type of personality you have to go perhaps into another field? What would you say about that?
It really depends on the individual. There are definitely personalities that are better for any type of sales.
Like what would you say? What qualities in a person?
I would think someone who's more concerned about the welfare of the client or customer instead of just the amount of money that they can make. That's a plus, for me. And I think anyone who's interested in the profession would need to consider that. Because, you know, the more you care about the people you're working with, the more you want to help them. Of course, you're going to prosper, but I think the whole idea is to be patient and to be more concerned about your clients and customers than yourself.
I was going to ask you about, you know, not knowing for sure, but is a lack of patience something that if a person has that you really would say no, you know, because it sounds like you might need, in a field that way, you might need patience to work with people, and perhaps that they might take their time?
Yes, you definitely need patience. Patience is one of the main characteristics I think that we need.
I have to ask you this because I'm wondering, do you have people that give you a list maybe of what they want, and does it ever happen that you try real hard perhaps to show them that type of house and so forth, and then have them do just maybe go in something and not have it all, but yet this is it, I love it? Do you have that often?
Often, very often. People will say, I want a certain section of town, I want a certain amount of amenities in a house or square footage, or they want to stick to a certain price range. And of course we start off, which is a good starting point. You know, it helps me to know where to start. And of course after I show the customer a few houses, it doesn't take many, then I can see where we're going and what they're really looking for.
I would think, I don't know if this is true, you can tell me that perhaps when people start out that maybe they do have a preconceived idea until they really get the reality perhaps of what that different houses are, all these things that are desired.
Yes. They do have an idea of what they're looking for, what they want. But a lot of times they will look, and then what they end up buying is not exactly what they thought they wanted.
What is so important that you would point out to young couples? Are they willing to start, perhaps when I say this, a majority of first buyers, you know, which I would tend to guess would be young people? What's so important to them? Do they go start with a small house, or are they prosperous enough today, young people, to go with perhaps a larger home, you know?
Today, young people are more prosperous than they were 20 years ago, and they can start off with more than they did years ago. I find it's good. The first thing to find out is how much they qualify for. Then we can start looking in a price range that they can afford. And then we look for the most that they can buy, you know, for their price range. And of course the needs today are greater than they were years ago. With both parents working most of the time. Years ago you had mainly one parent working and the other stayed home, you know, the mother stayed home and cared for the children. Now you have both parents working. So you need more, like bathrooms. A long time ago, one bathroom was sufficient. Now it's not, because the children are getting ready for school and both parents are getting ready for work at the same time. So the need is greater today than it was a long time ago.
I heard recently kind of a joke, but probably very true. Why have you been married 50 years? Well, we had more than one bathroom, you know, through the years, and this person had several daughters, so I thought that was real cute, you know, through the years that it had helped Diane. What about, What about the trend? When my husband and I were young, starting out, uh, as far as I knew, my husband was in college, but most of the young couples that we knew and, went to school with, went in service, it was a standard operating procedure to rent for a good while until the family started coming and until you started going up in a job to earn more. How is the trend today? I mean, we did just speak of being much more prosperous. So has that changed? Do young people, jump into buying, or is it still renting
Some
first?
some are renting first until they can afford to buy, and of course some, depending how well they plan their future, some are willing to wait to get married until they're finished with college and and have worked for a while. So it depends on the individuals. And then too, with the new programs that are available through most of the mortgage lenders, there are programs to help young couples, first-time home buyers, to qualify now. So that helps them to be able to buy a lot of times and pay the same monthly payments as they're paying in rentals. So that's a great help for young people today.
Yeah, yes, that does sound wonderful, because it used to be, like I said, there were exceptions, but that used to be such a, standard. Now I'd like to switch over into your family. Tell me about your children and the grandchildren's names and their ages that you have.
I have a daughter, Annette, who's married to Brian Jolivet. They have 2 children. They have a son, Blake Michael, who's 6 years old, and a little girl, Brooke Elizabeth. She's 10 months old. They're living in Virginia now. I have a son, Kevin. He's not married yet. He is engaged. And he has recently, within the last 2 months, moved to Humboldt, Texas. He's manager there of a local store.
That sounds wonderful, and the pictures of your grandchildren, they're gorgeous.
Thank you.
I know you must be so impatient when you're apart to see them and be with them. They're beautiful. Tell me, because I have a good friend in Dallas, and when her single son, he's in the service, comes home, she sends a care package. I call it a care package back with him. And so tell me, what does your son have to have when he comes home to visit you in food, and what do you fix to send back with him?
Well, Kevin has to have pork chops when he comes home. And of course he loves the rice dressing and barbecue that we always have prepared for him. And of course when he goes home, he takes all of the leftovers. And then of course I may bake a cake or some brownies that he can take with him.
That sounds just fabulous.
Right. And of course when Annette and her family comes, we have to have the seafood and sausage gumbo, and of course the rice dressing also. And
you're making me lick my lips just to talk about it.
And of course the fried fish and the fried shrimp, that's both of their favorites.
Now they live in Virginia, you
Yes.
said, and so they miss that seafood, I bet. Huh?
Yes, they really do. They do. And of course, with them, they have care packages of Tony Chachere's and just the seasonings that are not available in Virginia.
I know our son was temporarily working up in West Virginia, I believe it was Virginia Beach, West Virginia.
Yes.
But he would call home, send the seasoning, send, the package. And when he was on a ship in the Navy in the Mediterranean, I sent all kinds of of meat, you know,
Yes.
from the stores, and so they do miss food of down here, don't they?
They really do. They really do.
When they're gone. And tell me, I know y'all have the celebrations in your family
Yes.
of the weddings and for funerals in church. And tell me what you're famous for. You know, what do they say? Bring Rose to the for your food covered dishes.
They always want me to bring rice dressing, and of course candied yams, and of course my nieces always say that I make a $100 gumbo.
Oh, that sounds like such a high compliment with the good cooks, huh?
Yes, it is. They like to eat, and every time they come at my house, they'll say, "Oh, it smells good," and they will go straight to the cabinet and get a container and start eating. They have to taste.
Yeah. And did you, you said your mother was such a good cook. Did you and your sister and your brother, did y'all watch your mother? Did she teach y'all? Did you help her and learn how to be such good cooks? Or was it after you married that you learned to cook so good?
I did help my mom a lot, and noticed to see what she'd prepare and how she prepared it. And it seems it just came natural after I got married. I knew that was important for her to have the meals prepared and have the house clean and the laundry done. And I just started from there. And as I cooked, I think I learned even better.
As you went along,
Yes.
And do you cook by exact measurements of recipes, perhaps that were handed down in your family, not only by your mother maybe, but by your relatives, or do you just go, you know, like almost the same, but it'd be difficult for you to sit down and write it down? You know, how do you do on the cooking?
Trial and error.
Oh,
No,
okay.
some things I'll use a recipe, but now I've done it for so long that I'll just try different things. And of course my mother-in-law was a super cook, and I tried to pattern my rice dressing from hers, because that was one of the things that everybody she's known for, her rice dressing.
Oh, boy.
So I've learned a lot from her too.
And tell me about Christmas and Thanksgiving. What do your children have to have? What is y'all's favorite for Thanksgiving and then for Christmas?
Well, of course, they have to have the turkey and the rice dressing and the candied yams and the macaroni and cheese and of course the pecan candies and the cakes and the whole works.
That what pies you said?
Pecan.
What is Kevin's favorite in pie that he has to have for the holiday?
Yeah, Kevin has to have a pecan pie.
Oh, I love that too. Of course, I love all of it, but
Yes.
that's his favorite.
That's
in other
his
words,
favorite, yes.
And what about Annette?
Annette likes the pecan candies and of course the lemon cake, and of course now there's the pecan pie is big with her family also.
And the grandchildren, how are they? Because let's see, they lived, you told me, in New Orleans for so long before going to Virginia. So how are they on eating and on food? You know, because you said they were raised in New Orleans, so they love the food, huh?
Yes,
down here.
yes, they do, and of course Blake loves to eat. So, and he's not particular. He loves vegetables, as well as meat. So he's not a picky eater, and of course they have, they've taught him to enjoy a lot of juices and not much of the junk foods.
And of course the baby's too little at just 10 months to know what her favorite food is yet.
And Ed did tell me that last Sunday she prepared fried chicken, and she gave Brooke some, and she said she did enjoy it. So she's beginning to have a little of the table foods now.
Oh, I think sometimes genes are strong. Our daughter loved ice cream. I think she came here loving ice cream. Always. Now I want to change a little bit and ask you, when you look back at Annette and Kevin growing up, what was so important to you, Rose, that you wanted to teach them so very, very much? And when I say that, like for life, what lessons did you want them to remember for life that you felt were so important to you?
It was very important for me to pass on to my children